It's Rhythm and Soul Radio. I am Marco Nobles. We have our virtual studio open, and I have a special guest in the virtual studio, a relatively new artist for many of us, but certainly if you've been listening to Rhythm and Soul Radio over the past 3 months or so, she's not necessarily new to you. She is the voice behind the single "Bad Decisions." She is the example of if Layla Hathaway and Tony Braxton had a baby. Brianna Knight is in the virtual studio. Hey, how are you, Brianna?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. So I wanted to start off with that reference because that's actually how I discovered you. You sent us an email with the single "Bad Decisions," and you didn't have a PR person do this for you. You did this, right?
Yes.
So and you said if Layla Hathaway and Tony Braxton had a baby, dot, and and it was you, and we were able to discover you. Um, Talk about that because obviously they are influences of yours, being Layla Hathaway and Tony Braxton. But talk about your own reference to that. A lot of times artists don't want to put themselves in certain categories, but you clearly, were making a statement.
Definitely. When it comes to music that I'm currently working on, I am 100% a soprano, but I have a really large range. And my tone, it just reminds you of Tony Braxton and Layla Hathaway. Especially, I had posted a video of just the song itself on TikTok, and I was like, oh, well, I feel like her. And a lot of people were like, nah, 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 you sound like Tony Braxton's baby. And you got other people like,
Mm,
you sound like a mini Layla Hathaway. And I was like, you know what? Okay. I don't think it's necessarily putting myself in anybody's shoes or a box. It's just to say you could tell the influences and you could tell who I admire, their style, their just choice of words, delivery, and honestly their persona. Because both of those women are fantastic. And Layla is just a beast. Tony is a beast, and Layla's a beast in both neo soul, soul, and jazz. So
yes.
obviously I had to bring her up. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now, "Bad Decisions" was the first single that we've been able to hear from you, but it's not your first single. You released, I believe it was last year, a single "So Deep" that received 1 million streams.
Yes, we're almost at 2 million now. Yes.
2 million streams. Talk about that. 'Cause we haven't had a chance to hear that. That must be even more amazing.
So deep. It's my fun fact I was saying yesterday was that I wasn't going to post it at first. I was really nervous and I was just messing around. I'm like, I mean, okay, all right. And then my boyfriend and my family were like, please post this. I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden it just took off in a way I couldn't imagine. It was the perfect mix. What's different about Bad Decisions is So Deep. Is So Deep was the perfect mix of neo soul and contemporary R&B. And then Bad Decisions is truly neo soul, leaning more towards the soul portion. So it was
Mm.
really like nice to be able to give back. What I like to say is Bad Decisions. I know my older crowd who was listening to D'Angelo, who was listening to Lauryn Hill, who was listening to Erica when she first came out, Jill Scott, they're going to love Bad Decisions. And people who are into later on Erica Badu, later on, people who came a little bit later, like Jasmine Sullivan, and people who contributed but came later, I knew they were
Mm.
going to like So Deep. So it's kind of like So Deep is for my young people, and then Bad Decisions is for everybody. Kind of like my way of saying thank you to people who helped inspire me. So So Deep was just the beginning of that.
Okay, so now with that, let's kind of take it back a little bit. Let's kind of start from the beginning. Where are you from?
I'm from Spring Valley, New York. It's an hour out from New York City.
Okay. I'm familiar with Spring Valley. It is, and we don't see many artists who are coming from Spring Valley making an indent as you certainly are. Talk about what was the music in the household? What were you singing in church? How did the music bug catch you?
My mom's favorite thing to say is that when she was pregnant with me, she's a singer, that I heard her. I had like
Mm,
a delayed speech kind of thing, or I wasn't speaking, but I was humming. And she said this lady in the supermarket stopped her and was like, you know, your daughter is singing. And my mom was like, okay, whatever. You know, like any other mom was like, all right, yeah. But then the lady was like, no, she's singing in key. which is like a rare
Mm,
thing for these kids to do. And then from there, my mom, obviously, she would have me perform for the family and stuff. But then she pushed me to do like talent shows. I did showcases. I also did like gospel competitions. I grew up in the church, Faith Assembly of God in
mm,
Chestnut Ridge. And they used to have these competitions where you could just do cover songs. And I got 1 year top of the state for New York within that.
wow.
And then 2 years later, I did an original song when it was me and my guitar. Before there was all these different beats and me working with producers, just me and my guitar. I got the top of the state with that, with an original song. And then I did musicals. And then once I got to college, I was still me and my guitar. I hadn't touched the beat at this point. If it was a beat, I did
Mm,
covers. And then from
mm,
there, I joined like a poetry club, and then I was just learning a lot from them about performing, and I got invited to like do the Apollo and stuff. And growing up, these are things that my family had talked about. Like they showed me Anita Baker. They my
mm.
favorite thing to say is like everybody says they love the Temptations, but you don't love the Temptations until you are forced to listen to the Christmas album and you know every song back to back. And that was the kind of thing. And then my father, so like my mother, she was really into gospel music and really, really old soul. Like she had me listening to Al Green. I was listening to Barry White and like Teddy Pendergrass. And then my father, he's the one who really introduced me to neo soul. So D'Angelo, we had
Okay,
everybody has the CDs they listen to for vacation. So my father had Maxwell.
okay.
He had Jill Scott. He had Erica. He had Lauryn Hill, and it would just be on repeat. The one album that has "He Loves Me," every track
Mm-hmm.
back to back to back to back, and I kind of just
Mm.
carried all of that, and that's what made me me. That's why I said I'm really a neo soul head at heart.
Okay, okay. Now, with all that you just said, I have to ask the question. We're going to be getting into that season soon. What is the greatest Christmas song of all time?
Don't do that. Um, honestly, I it's not a pivot, but it's still there. All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey.
Really?
The
Okay.
range.
So now I was expecting, given what you said, that your answer would be the Temptations' Silent Night.
I know, and
How
I know that's what you expected of me. But no, it's a second. It's a second. It's a second.
second?
Yes, it's a second.
Second to Mariah Carey, really? Wow. Okay. All right. I'm gonna let you have that. That's your choice. I'll let you have that. But Temptation, Silent Night. I mean, come on. Anyway. Anyway, moving right along. Um, so you mentioned you were able to perform at the Apollo. How early was that? Because you haven't. I mean, you've been singing a long time, but you haven't been releasing music a long time. So where was that in the journey as we get to where we are?
Just me and my guitar. Like I said, at that time, I only had about four four songs, acoustic songs that I was doing. That was it. Not even, maybe about five that I was just swirling around. Never released it. Only people on campus knew me. I went to SUNY New Paltz, and this
Okay.
guy who was interning there, he was like, I need like a black girl that can play guitar. They have this summit coming up and they need somebody. And my friends who were at the poetry club were like, hey, why don't you take Brianna? And so it was me and my guitar, and I asked my two friends to sing backup for me. So I taught them the harmonies, and then we were there. And then I got invited 2 years ago during the beginning of the pandemic, and they were like, unfortunately, we can't have you in person, but can you send like 2 submission videos? And so I did that, and it was
Mm,
crazy because it was just me and my guitar. And I remember telling my mom, like, I don't have producers, I don't have like all this money, I don't have fancy stuff. And she's like, but look at what you're doing with just you by
right.
yourself. Like there's nothing else that you need. Yeah, that kind of helped. And hearing encouragement too, just from people who are vets. Like they weren't supposed to let me, but they let me walk backstage where everybody who's famous, who's been in the Apollo, they signed this
Yes.
one wall and they let
Yes.
me just take pictures in front of it. And I was so shocked. They were like, yeah, you can take pictures, you could touch it. And I was like,
Right.
okay, all right. They even had a cute little thing for me, my name on the wall, like just my own separate room. It was really different. It was an eye opener, I guess, for me to really take it seriously. Because at that point, I wasn't considering really releasing music. I was just playing because I love to
Mm.
play.
Okay. Okay. Now you mentioned a couple of times you and your guitar. Are you classically trained? Is guitar your instrument that you play?
I'm not classically trained. I taught myself. It's one of my main instruments that I play. My other fun fact is that I played violin for 10 years. I don't
Oh,
currently play it that often, but that's what introduced me to wanting to play the guitar. And in fact, one of the gospel competitions, they have a practice round that you could do. You go upstate, they have a little conference. I'm singing and I'm about to pick up my violin. The lady goes like, "Look, you got the talent, but you need to pick up something else. Go get a guitar, a piano, or something, and you can make it." And I was like, "Oh, all right, okay." From then on, it was just me and my guitar.
okay, okay. It's Rhythm and Soul Radio. We are talking with Brianna Knight. Her single that many of you have been listening to on Rhythm and Soul Radio over the last few months is Bad Decisions, and we're going to get into that. Um, uh, Now, how many other singles have you released? We know there was So Deep, now Bad Decisions, and you've released something else since Bad Decisions, right?
Yes, I released an Afro pop song, Afro pop R&B, and then I also released a cover of Yes We Can. Uh
Okay.
yeah, which was that was really awesome because I didn't expect that. I got approached because of Bad Decisions, and they were like, "Would you like to do a cover?" And you would be able to do all vocal arrangements. That was fun. And most recently, it was Link Up, which I love Caribbean music. I'm half Jamaican. Spring
Mm,
Valley is full of Caribbean, so it was kind of like let me fuse that with my love of R&B because we're seeing it with like Wizkid and a lot of
yes.
R&B people are fusing it. So I did that with Link Up to just talk about long distance and relationships. I believe that there should be more love songs in the world. Bad Decisions is
Mm.
about lessons learned, but I truly do believe in love. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's awesome. So now you've released a number of these singles. There has to be an EP or an album coming soon.
Yes, 100%. I have two projects. One that's coming out in February, full of love songs, and then another one that just talks about dating, which is both of them are going to be awesome. I have one, I can't wait to release the single. We have one that is truly 80s R&B, Anita Baker, like prom music. Like you just want to slow dance with the person that you love. I can't wait to give it to the world. It's one of my favorite tracks I've made so far.
Okay, okay. So now, as you, I'm guessing you're writing all of your music because you're playing guitar and you write to the guitars. Is that your process? Did you start out like writing poetry as you kind of was building your voice? I know you went to SUNY New Paltz, which is a very creative school, if you will,
Yes.
for creatives, actors, performers, etc. So, how did you kind of build that part of you in terms of being able to express through music? And again, did poetry come first, and you were able to try to transition that into song?
Poetry came first. I wasn't obviously when you're a little kid, you just sprouting out random words. But I had started writing poetry when I was about in the third or fourth grade. First, it was just humorous. Like my first poem was about me apologizing to a bumblebee that fell in my hair and I had to kill it. And my
Mm.
mom was like, "That's hilarious, right?" So I perform it. I'm like, "All right, okay." But then moving forward, once I hit middle school, all these weird feelings about like liking people and trying to understand yourself, your identity, your place in the world. I started really, really writing, and then in high school I just started reading more and writing, but then somebody was like, "Why don't you try to like look at songwriting?" I think I did a workshop. They don't offer it anymore, but this guy was like, "If you're trying to make it into business, you gotta learn how to write your songs." And I was like, "Okay." All right. And mind you, I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I found on Coursera, Berkeley College was offering this songwriting course called Songwriting 101. And from there, it kind of warped my mind, and I started blending poetry into songwriting. And then once I started messing with the big league poets, like a full spoken word team, no nonsense, they were like, "Look, we know you play the guitar, we know you sing, but you need to perform at least 2 poems a week." And that's that. And I was like, "Okay." They were like, "After that, you could do your singing." So truly, it gave me an opportunity to really work on my poetry and how I tell stories, especially working with people who are really, really hip hop influenced. It allowed me to
Mm.
truly work on how I deliver because I feel like hip hop stories and R&B stories can sometimes be so different, but when you have them combined in one world, you can truly see, like you could truly feel what you need to feel and see what you need to say.
Right, right. How do you? I mean, it's you've done a lot, and it's still early in your journey. As an artist, as a singer, as a musician, as a songwriter. How are you um, learning? I'll say the business of music and this business of show, because it is, they say it's 95% business and 5% show. So how are you? How is that working for you?
Some trial and error. Like I said, didn't expect So Deep to blow the way that it blew, but I did have some preparation. I did a couple of internships. I graduated with a degree in education and history, but at the
Mm,
same time, I was talking to people who were performing. I was going back and forth, all the way from upstate, driving 2 hours to go to New York City and come back. So some stuff I was learning, but those internships really turned my mind. I did Power to Inspire, which is by Vivian and Ray Scott Chu,
yes,
who,
yes.
yes, they work with Dancing with the Stars,
Yep.
and this was like that was 2020 was their first year of doing that, and I learned a lot. They had Anthony Hamilton come speak to us. They had JoJo. They had John B. We had 50 Cent's publicist. A lot of people just pour into us of what to do, what to avoid, and how to go about it, both as singers, as songwriters, as potential producers, and as anybody who wants to be in the business. And
Hmm.
then I got to do hands-on work where I was a part of a marketing team for organization Girls Who Listen. We did that for 4 months. And I also was a part of Finesse Media, where not only was I the marketing team, I was also the graphic designer. And on top of that, they had us doing reach outs for partnerships and for panelists to come. And they were like, we don't got no money. So you need to you need to kind of finesse that for us. And I was like, all right, okay. So I got to get my hands dirty and see what everybody does on each level. And so that's kind of helped me. And then lastly, just reading and asking questions, because what's funny is nobody asks you your age in music. I realized
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Well, ageism is a thing. Ageism can really be a thing, particularly in music and entertainment.
Yes, 100%. So it's always funny when I come into a room. I don't even know anybody's age. I'm just in la la land. And then they'll ask me a question. I'll be like, oh, I didn't know that. They're like, what? How old are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm just like 23, 24. They're like, you baby? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I had one time I opened up for an R&B artist, Samoa, and I performed, but the person who booked me didn't know that I was under 21. I was
Mm.
18 at the time. And in the openers, one of them was like, you're really, really good. We have to work on stuff. I said, yeah. And he was like, oh, you want to come to the studio? How old are you? And I was like, oh, I'm just 18. It was the funniest thing in the world. So from that, people recognizing, I guess, also being a baby, I've had like mentors for some seasons and moments, truly, because I haven't had one mentor. I've had many who've helped me
Right,
throughout everything. But
right,
yeah, that's really helped throughout each stage, all of that.
right. That's awesome. Now, are you still based in Spring Valley, or are you like more in New York City, or in between the two?
I'm in New Jersey currently, but I'm in
Okay,
West New York, New Jersey, so I can't leave New
okay.
York alone.
All right, excellent. Now, you mentioned you're working on two projects now. Are these both two separate EPs, two full LPs, an EP and an LP? How is this? How is this gonna roll out?
Two separate EPs, and then
Okay,
I'm trying to get it together for an album. We shall see. It's because I'm trying to get people to cross over into understanding that I play guitar. Anybody that sees me on my page understands that I play, but
right,
anybody who's just clicking on these songs or listening on the radio, you don't know. So
right,
it's kind of
right.
like I'm trying to figure out how to get everybody to get the full parts of me. So right now I'm showing some, and then I'll finally put it together, but definitely two EPs.
Okay, excellent. And you said the first one is expected to be released like around February.
Yes.
Okay, all right. And is that where will people will be able to hear so deep and bad decisions along with the other couple that you just released?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So that's something we can initially look forward to. And how can people like follow you and find out more information about you?
Yes, yes, yes. So you can follow me on all socials at Poet Dreaming. No underscores, no numbers, just Poet Dreaming. And if you want to listen to the music, you could find me at Brianna Knight. It's my government.
Mhm.
BriannaKnight. You can find me on Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, Audio Mac, YouTube Music, Tidal, Amazon, wherever they got the music, I'm at.
Excellent, excellent. With Brianna Knight, I'm glad we finally got to do this. I've been wanting to talk to you since I heard the music. It was just so good. And you're again that the work that you've been able to do in terms of marketing and internships and stuff obviously worked because it caught my attention with how you reached out. So and when I heard the song, I was like, I'm gonna have to have her on at some point. And we too are going to have to work with you, on different things and different events, different, programs that we do, throughout the year. So we certainly look forward to that as well.
Yes, thank you for having me and thank you for approaching me. I find it an honor and thank you for the support. I appreciate you so much.
It's no problem. We appreciate the music and we look forward to more and more and more. So keep sending it to us. You always have a home here on Rhythm and Soul Radio.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to hear.
Absolutely. It's Marco Noble's Rhythm and Soul Radio. Here is Brianna Knight with Bad Decisions.